Hi and welcome to my channel. Today I'm doing a remodel of 17 Culpepper House, which is an apartment in San Myshuno. It comes in at around $43,000 for the apartment itself, with it still being about $600 a week, I believe it is. For this apartment I wanted to do a color scheme of some browns, tans, a little bit of yellow, and I'm not really sure if I accomplished that or not. I also want to apologize for this video kind of being all over the place and any cuts in the footage or jumping from here to there in the footage. I'm not very good at it yet. I've done a few different videos, but not too many, so I'm not the greatest at it. But here you can see I'm working on the bathroom over here, and I have placed a room that I made myself that has some bathroom decor in it to help me find the things easier. So like the toilet paper and the plunger, things like that are easier for me to find if they're all in one room. I created the room myself and I use it quite often. So I am now working on the kitchen, and this, I had to cut a lot of the footage out of this video. It was about 40 minutes long. It took me a couple hours to actually do the apartment, and which surprised me. I didn't think it was going to take me that long, but I spent so much time decorating. I had to cut a lot of it out. But here I'm trying to just figure out the cupboard and counter situation. I think I actually had to cut out the whole cupboard situation, but you will see the cupboards later on. And I'm about to place another room I made that has some rotated shovels and brooms and mops, and I've had them I rotated them on each side using the tool mod so that I can use them, because normally they're just laying down and really no use for them. But I liked what I did here. I ended up taking the mop or the broom and dustpan from, I believe it's laundry day, and putting it over there as well. And here I struggled for a while with the adding an end counter, an end cupboard up there on the end, so I ended up just putting some shelves in and adding some clutter. So now I'm just picking up more clutter, and I'm a relatively new builder. I've only been doing it for about maybe 4 or 5 months, but I've learned a lot of tricks online, mostly YouTube, and I'm not the greatest at it, of course. I think that comes with time and just creativity. I think I enjoy it a lot. I definitely enjoy it a lot. It's very relaxing, and I just love seeing what I can make. But this apartment was a little difficult, and that's probably because I've been just building houses, and it takes me days and days, and the apartment I thought wouldn't take as long, but it ended up taking quite a while anyway. So here you can see I pulled out another room that has some more debug and maybe live edit objects in, I'm not sure, for the kitchen that I've created. And this room is extremely helpful. I spent so much time going through debug and live edit, finding little things here and there to decorate with, so I figured I would just make a room that I could have a bunch of the stuff, and I don't have everything in it, but that room comes in helpful as well. And right here I'm just taking a bag of flour, I believe it is, and I'm using the tool the tool mod to make it not quite clip into the little stool I found here quite as much. I've been using the tool mod a lot lately, and it's really great. It's a amazing tool, and that is the only mod I use besides Better Build Buy, and occasionally use the OMSP shelf, but that one can be a little tricky for me as well. But I'm really enjoying the tool mod, and I've gotten a lot of use out of it, and it's just really helpful for different situations. But here I'm just picking out some more little decorations for the kitchen, and I think the kitchen is my favorite place to decorate, and probably the bathroom would be my second favorite place. I do like the living rooms and bedrooms, but the kitchen is definitely my favorite. And you can see the cupboards up there. Those took me a long time to figure out how I wanted them to look and which cupboards I wanted to use. I don't believe the cupboards, I think those are base game cupboards, and then counters aren't base game. I think they might be vampires, but I'm not sure. I don't think so, but those were a little tricky. Not the counters themselves, but the cupboards were a little tricky to figure out how I wanted them placed out. And so here I'm just grabbing some more decor, I believe. I had to cut so much of this out, it's hard to tell what I'm going to be doing next, but I think I'm getting ready to set up that other counter over there next to the flower. And I end up adding a coffee pot, which I usually don't add coffee pots, but I for some reason thought of that, and I ended up adding a coffee pot in there eventually. Right now I'm just kind of collecting all my clutter, and I'm gonna take this little teapot that I just pulled out, and that'll be on top of the stove. That's something I've been liking to do lately. And these pots hanging from the ceiling, I couldn't figure out how to quite get them in the right position, and they just didn't look right, so I didn't use them. And now I'm just trying to get some more clutter. I used one of these debug spoons over here. It looked like it had been maybe just sitting next to the little container with the spoons in it next to the sink, and I thought that was pretty neat. I usually use that object a lot too in most kitchens, and I always forget about this dish rack from, I believe it was Parenthood, so I decided to use that in the kitchen. And right here is some like biomedicine or something, but I figured you could pretend it was like tea or something that I threw up there on the shelf. And those shelves are the immaculate shelves, and they're from Base Game, and I use those a lot for a lot of different things. You'll see later on that I use them in the living room underneath the windows for little shelves, and I just find them really useful. I like the kind of like smooth look of them. They don't have like any extra parts coming off of them. They just look like a piece of like a board made into a shelf. So as you can see, I just placed the coffee pot there, and I was debating on which one of those fruit bowls I wanted. I ended up using the just most normal looking one, I believe, from Base Game for that. I wasn't sure yet where I was exactly going to place that fruit bowl, but later on I actually ended up adding in some island counters in the middle of the kitchen. And as I was editing this, I realized the counters I probably could have pulled a little bit more towards the living room. But anyway, I'm sticking some little sticky notes now from Parenthood onto the fridge, and I saw this little trick on YouTube. Can't remember what video I saw it, but I just thought it was the coolest idea. So I've been doing that ever since. Most of my builds have been adding these little sticky notes onto the fridge, and I just think it adds a little more character to the room. And I just love decor. Decor is my favorite thing to do. I struggle with, when I was building, I built a few houses, not many, maybe like 5 or 6, but I've struggled with spending way too much time on the decor, and just spending so much time looking for things in the decor. And I am adding that a little pink sponge that comes from Debug, I believe, or maybe it's Live Edit. It might be like the sponge that you use when you give like a toddler a bath. I'm not really sure, but I had to use a tool mod there to pull up out of the counter a little bit, which, like I said, the tool mod is extremely helpful, and I saved you guys the pain of watching me go through tables and chairs for about probably 15 real-time minutes. I cut a lot of that out, because that's my biggest problem, I think, is I spend so much time trying to decide what looks right with each other that by the time I'm done building a house, it's been like 3 or 4 days on and off that I've been doing it, and I don't record those because I feel like I'd never be able to edit it down enough. I've seen I watch a lot of speed builds, and some people can build a whole house and make it into a video of like 20 to 30 minutes, and that just seems really hard to me. Maybe they're faster builders or better editors. Of course, I'm not really that great at either one of them, but I just thought the apartment would be easier because it would be smaller and it would already be built in the shape that it was going to be. But it took me quite a while to do all this, and right here I'm trying to pick out a fireplace, and I ended up going with a real simple looking one with some brick, and it has that like little shelf on the front, which I liked. So I decided to put some brick behind it. I was trying to find something that looked nice, And I also forgot to put, I've seen a lot of people put brick underneath it as well, which makes sense, but I forgot all about that. So I'm picking out my brick, and then I messed with some columns a little bit, but I couldn't get them to work, so I ended up going into debug or live edit and grabbing these like fence posts sort of deals, and I use those and I put them on each side, just kind of give it a little bit of structure. And then I did end up using the tool mod to try to take one of those and flip it around so I could put it on to kind of box in the whole fireplace on the top, but it wouldn't rotate right, so I just gave up on that. And now I'm just trying to find some clutter that I think would look nice on top of the fireplace. And there's another trick I learned from just watching different speed builds, is if your items keep snapping into place no matter where you're putting them, and like on the fireplace, if you try to put an item, if you have some free slots on the top of the fireplace and you try to put an item but you want it to be on the lower spot of the fireplace, it's going to snap to the top. So I've learned that if you put a couple of items on the top to fill up those slots, it'll snap to the bottom, the lower slot, which is just something I've noticed from watching a lot of speed builds. But yeah, I really like the way this little fireplace area turned out. And actually, you won't see it here, but I went in at the end of the build and I play tested everything, and I realized that there was no television, which I usually don't put TVs in anyway if I'm going to play, because they just drive me crazy. Your Sims constantly want to play on, watch the TV, and it's constantly running, and I just don't like the background noise of it, so I usually don't even put a TV in. But I figured that if someone was to download this, they would probably want a TV, so I ended up putting a TV right above the fireplace there, and I think it looks nice. I struggled quite a while with this living room and trying to get it situated the way I want it. I didn't want the couch to be like way back on the other wall, that far away from the fireplace, but then I wasn't sure what I was going to put behind the couch, so I decided just to go ahead and place the couch, which also took me a long time to figure out which couch I wanted. But it's almost like I grabbed this couch and I was like, that's it, that's perfect. I also end up adding at the end, I add a remote there on the side table. I figure that you need a remote to start a TV, so I just think it's a nice little decoration. I also ended up adding a fire alarm, because I had forgotten to add that. And the table over there that you will see in a little while, it has the sunflowers on it, and I figured that, you know, there would still be enough room left on the table for the Sims to eat, but there wasn't, so I had to take the sunflowers off, and I end up making like a little stand with the sunflowers and some books and stuff like that. And I think it looked nice, and also that required me to pull the table out, and I think that filled in, you'll see it later on, that there was kind of this big area, empty area, and I tried to like place a rug there. It just didn't look right, but I ended up later moving the table and it filled in that area, and it actually turned out to look pretty nice. I struggled with the rugs. I wanted to keep it pretty simple, like browns and yellows and tans and like wood colors. So I'm not sure if that's the final rug. I think that is the final rug that I used, but now I'm adding a little desk over here, and I saw this trick on YouTube as well. You can take the desk and size it way down, and then you can place a shelf above it, and then you can just find some clutter to kind of cover up that desk so you don't see it. The Sim's foot will kind of clip into the clutter, but that doesn't really bother me too much. And also, I noticed when I was playtesting this that your Sim has to, like, you have to tell them to go over and sit in the chair to be able to use the computer. Like, I was telling my Sim to go play games on the computer, and she just kept standing there and saying she couldn't sit down and blah blah blah, but she could sit down. So basically, if you want to use the computer, you just have to have them sit down, and then you can tell them to use something. But I just thought this little area came together nicely. I saw this idea and I just thought it was neat, really neat idea, and it inspired me to use the shelves again underneath the windows. And there I'm just placing a couple of little items that kept disappearing when I placed them. I'm not sure why the mail that you can get from Debug clip or just disappears when you place it on the shelf, because I've used that before on end tables and stuff and it doesn't do that. But the wallet, I do remember that I was trying to place, that just disappears. There are a few items in debug that I've noticed that when you place them they just kind of disappear, so you can't really use them. And I'm not sure if that's like because they're lower than the ground, like they're down lower, but not too sure about that. But you can't use the wallet, I guess, which would be a nice little touch. But now I'm just adding in a little guitar there. I wanted something at the end of the end table, and that also got me thinking that maybe I wanted to use a little book, like on this chair, just kind of something to add a little bit extra. And I ended up taking one of the guitar manuals and putting it over on this shelf over here in a little bit. Yeah, that's the table I was talking about. I had to end up taking those sunflowers off, which is a shame because they look real nice. But I'm sure if you had like a bigger table and they were in the middle, it would be fine. But I didn't really think this apartment needed a bigger table. So I'm trying to think about what I want on the shelves here. And this is another thing I spend a lot of time just kind of trying to find the perfect piece of decor, at least in my eyes. I just love the chicken. Maybe that's more appropriate for the kitchen, but I just loved the way it looked. I spent quite a bit of time here looking for a little plant, because I just love plants. Like, plants and other clutter items are my favorite thing to do when I'm building. So I just have a lot of fun with that. I really love doing like little art areas too. I ended up adding some easels or some canvases underneath that shelf there later on, which you'll see in the screenshots. I totally forgot about that, but I pulled out of debug or live edit a paintbrush and a little paint cup, which I end up placing the paint cup on the shelf and then the paintbrush on the easel. And I just thought it looked real nice and kind of brings everything together. But now that I'm looking at that plant I just placed, doesn't really fit. But that little corner over there, I kind of wanted to put something in, so I put that little bookshelf, which I wish you could use that, but you can just view it. But it's a cute little bookshelf. So yeah, we skipped to the bedroom here, and I'm trying to figure out the little situation. I love this little bureau; it's adorable. I don't know what pack it's from, but I saw it in someone else's video recently, and I was just like, I gotta use that. It's so like basic and simple. I just think it looks nice. And so yeah, this plant I really wanted to place somewhere, and I think I ended up placing it finally in the kitchen, but I just thought it was a good little plant. It looked nice. So here I'm adding in, I skipped through a lot of this because it just took me so long, but I'm just adding in a little shelf here, or island counter, which I think I probably should have pulled a little bit closer to the living room. But I really wanted to use that plate, but I just couldn't get it to look quite right in the kitchen. And that damn fruit bowl. I found some little, I like to use these. I've used these quite a bit, and usually I like rotate them a little bit to look like they're a little bit off with a tool mod, but I just didn't do that this time. And I think I found the perfect little picture. It really goes with the table. The table ended up getting moved later, of course, but the bedroom, the closet is actually a closet I created and I placed it, and I struggled with the walls. I didn't think it looked right. I don't think it was a big enough bedroom to really have a walled in space there, so I just ended up taking some of the things out and moving things around a little bit, and I ended up eventually making it look right. But I think we're getting pretty close to the end of the video now. I really enjoyed this room, this area, and I think the kitchen again and the living room this time I think turned out pretty good. You won't see any footage of the bathroom. I think not much anyway, but it'll be in the screenshots. I hope that you guys enjoy this build. Maybe someday I will record one of my house builds, but they just take me so long that I don't think I would ever be able to make a video out of it. But I've just been really enjoying this a lot. And yeah, I'm placing the curtains now, and that's about the end of the video. So thank you for watching.